notification. So that should be coming. And then also, if you want the notification for these kind of spontaneous live streams, make sure you're not only subscribed, but click that notification bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube, and it'll actually let you know when we're going live here with the videos, as well as when I upload regular videos as well. Now, a quick note for those of you guys watching this not live, but on the replay. When we get into the Q&As, there's a lot of random discussions about all sorts of different topics. And I noticed there's a lot of kind of common questions, you know. The Uniden R3 comes up a lot. And so I figured what I'm going to do for you guys is if you're watching this in the replay, after the video finishes, it takes a couple minutes for the video to process on YouTube. And I'm going to go through in the video description and actually list all the different questions that we talk about, the points that we addressed, as well as the time. And so it'll be like, 6 minutes and 31 seconds, we talk about this topic. And then at 9 minutes and 42 seconds, we talk about this one. So it's obviously not going to work if you're live. If you're live, you can participate and ask the questions and stuff. And then for you guys watching the replay, I'll put that information down there for you guys so you can see all the stuff we talk about and maybe skip to any topic that you're curious about. So that'll be something that I want to share with you guys. Also, another thing, the giveaway that I'm doing for the F800 Pro, this ends tomorrow. So if you haven't entered the giveaway for this one, I've got a link in the video description where you can go enter this. Good morning, everybody. And then I guess the next things that I want to talk about, those are kind of some of the initial things. So, there is a rumor going around, and there's a link for this in the video description too, for a new version of the Max360c. This should be for an international version of this detector. So basically this detector with MRCD capabilities. Now I'm saying this is a rumor because it hasn't been announced yet. It hasn't been anything like that. And the reason that we know about it, somebody on RDF was actually taking a look at the update software, and inside the code for the update software, there's mention of the 360c, the international version, and as well as like the boot logo. And you can take a look. It says 360c and it says international at the bottom. So hasn't been confirmed yet or anything, but it definitely does look pretty legitimate. So for those of you guys looking for an international version of the 360c, that may be something to look out for. Now, we've had international versions of the previous gen Maxes, like the Max or the Max 2, I believe, but we haven't had an international Max 360. Basically, it's the same idea plus MRCD detection. The Redlines, like the Redline Pro A, the International, the Redline EX, those should actually have better MRCD detection range. I don't think the Max series had the greatest range ever against the MRCD, but then again, that's just kind of off the top of my head. I don't follow the MRCD stuff too closely. But for those of you guys looking for an international version of the 360c, maybe something to keep an eye out for in the coming months, or I guess whenever Escort decides to release that detector. And then I guess the last thing that I wanted to talk about, Uniden R3 with arrows. I did a video on that a few weeks ago or something. You can take a look. No information about it. I promise when I have information about a Uniden R3 with arrows, you guys will be the first ones to know. And I'll probably post about that on Twitter and on the forums, and like that information will be out there. Don't worry. The last thing that I want to talk about is yesterday I went to a local YouTuber meetup here in Seattle, and we all met up to talk about live streaming, actually, which was great. I had some questions about like, what kind of software we could use, and it was about 2 hours long. I had a chance to meet a bunch of other YouTubers, which was really cool. I learned a ton. There's some really cool people around. I learned a lot as far as different cameras and software and ways to do like overlays with cool stuff. And that's something that I would want to get into. I'll have to learn how to use the software and kind of test it out first. So maybe like if I'm talking about something, I can overlay it on screen, like here's a detector and I can put the picture of it on screen, kind of like I do for my normal videos, instead of literally just having my laptop here and hit go and it just goes, excuse me. So I'm definitely going to be wanting to improve just my live streaming in general. I want to get, I'm actually looking at getting a new camera. So I'm doing a little bit of research now. The webcam in my MacBook Pro only shoots at 720p. I'd like to update that to at least 1080p to give you guys better video quality. So that should be coming. Yeah, so basically live streaming improvements also for you guys on Patreon. I like to do live streams with Patreon, so kind of like smaller ones. You guys can ask questions, kind of like this, but more private. It makes it a little bit easier for you guys to ask questions and more intimate and that kind of stuff. Anyways, one of the issues that I've had is I haven't really figured out how to schedule a live stream and then connect to it later so that you guys have the link available ahead of time and you can schedule it and that kind of stuff. And I've tried to work around it, but anyways, I think I've pretty much figured it out. One solution using the laptop and another one using my phone, kind of behind the scenes stuff, but that should make it easier for you guys who are on Patreon. So awesome. other than that, I guess that's kind of my initial announcements here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my notepad so I can start making notes on like, here's the question, here's the time, and when we start talking about it. I believe, yeah, there we go. I've got my timer so I can see like when in the video we talk about certain subjects. So with that said, I guess let's dive into the Q&A as usual. So, all right, let's start off. Odie Jones, let's start with you. Let's see, 517. Does the R3 have an app? No, it does not. The R3 does not have Bluetooth, and so there's no way for your phone to communicate with the detector. And so there is no app available for it. Everything is built into the detector. So some detectors that don't have GPS, for example, they would rely on your phone's GPS to give you your GPS lockouts, whereas the R3 has GPS built in. And so it doesn't need an app for some of those features. It'd be nice to do maybe like Escort Live type stuff, but that gets into a whole nother discussion of, well, Waze is already there and how many users are they going to get and blah, blah, blah. So pretty much, I mean, it's not as necessary as a detector that doesn't have GPS, but it would be cool. But at this point, there's no Bluetooth or way for your phone to communicate with the detector, so there is no app available. So good question. David Carter, let's see, 607. I've seen a comment you made about a slightly more affordable laser jammer that's being tested. Shows promise, but might not be as good as ALP. It might be as good as ALP. I mean, they're looking directly at the ALP and looking to see what kind of improvements they could make. So for all we know, it may wind up having some improvements over the ALP. It's still very much in testing. The guys in New York have one, Texas, of course, and I think Canada was the other place. So they're doing a bunch of testing against the Dragon Eye, testing various basically different jamming algorithms to see what's effective in terms of placement. There's different things with different style heads and how many heads you need and all sorts of cool stuff. So all that is in development. They've decided not to post too much initially during the early beta testing stuff. So we actually have not a ton of information about it. I don't know the ETA as far as when it's going to be coming out. If I were to guess, again, total guess, I'd say within a few months, maybe. It takes time for them to develop everything, to make sure production is available, to be able to ship it, customer service, testing, make sure that, firmware, there's a ton of stuff, but the firmware updates have been kind of behind the scenes. There's been a lot of work that's being done. So it's looking very promising, looking pretty good, but no real information to share about it. Other than this. So yeah, that's the latest as far as the new laser jammer. I know there's others in Europe as well. Somebody was asking me about it. But this is kind of one that's geared towards the States. If you Google around, you'll find others, but we really want ones that support all of the laser guns in use here in the US. There's always questions of like, well, not a lot of people see the Dragon Eye, and yeah, that's true, but it's kind of nice to have a jammer that can jam it, even if you don't see it here yet, in case it spreads or you drive into that area. Or for me, one of the biggest things, and probably for you guys too, is it's kind of a process to install these laser jammers. And if you ever need to update them, it's kind of a pain to pull out the old ones and put in the new ones and rewire stuff. And so it is kind of nice to have a jammer that can support it, regardless of whether or not you need it, you know? So yeah. Let's see. I'm in Ohio, so the Dragon Eye is a concern always. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, kind of what we were talking about. Like, if you see it, of course, you're going to want a jammer that can handle it. If you don't have it, kind of nice to have it either way. So, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so next, let's do Steve, 840. And I might have to figure out my my typing in these times, maybe figure out a better way to do it. But this is easier than going back later. Anyways, Steve. Shilfarth, cool name. What would cause a false laser alert? My old V1 would false to mid-2000s GM taillights, but my R3 had a spot on route that seems to false to laser. Okay, so Uniden false laser alerts. This is interesting. So I actually sent an email to Uniden about a week ago because a lot of you guys have been reporting false laser alerts. I don't see it on mine. Person I was speaking to, my contact there, he doesn't see it either. But a lot of you guys have been reporting it, and it's a little bit tougher, I guess, for us to figure out, you know, what's going on if we're not seeing it. But because you guys are reporting it, we're kind of like, okay, so kind of relying on you guys to say, do you have dash cam footage showing it? Could you maybe show us your setups? A lot of times I've mentioned this in previous videos, is your phone, believe it or not, can a lot of times cause false laser alerts. So just make sure your detector isn't able to see your phone. I've noticed sometimes the sun, depending on how the sun is filtering through the trees, or different lights, neon lights and stuff can cause it from time to time. I'm not really sure exactly what's causing them, but those seem to be kind of some of the common culprits. So pretty much the start thing is usually maybe move your phone or detector, make sure your detector isn't seeing your phone. But I've noticed sometimes people report false laser alerts even if the phone is not visible to the detector. We could always say, hey, the R3 is not that great at detecting laser in the first place. And if it falses, you could turn it off and rely on your laser jammers to actually protect you. Not the ideal solution, but kind of practically speaking, kind of a workaround that would work for the time being. But as far as what's causing them, I'm not totally sure. And I am seeing more reports of you guys online saying, hey, seeing false laser alerts with the R3 more so than maybe with like an Escort or a Redenso. So I do think that there's something to it, but I'm not totally sure what it is. But those are kind of some of my initial thoughts as far as that. So Casey, I've never had a false laser alert on my R3 either. Yeah. So, okay, Jason, let's see. 1049. So question about the V1 and the Redline. If I want to put the two in the car, where should I mount them? Okay, so typically, as you know, not a good idea to run two radar detectors at the same time. Historically, the V1 and the Redline, for whatever reason, they tend to play better together than most detectors do. I'm not sure if it has something to do with the emissions or the way the sweeps are being done under the hood or whatever. But if you want to do the Redline for long range, KA band only, and then the V1 for K and KA to get the arrows added in, to get the better filtering, GPS lockouts, all that kind of stuff, that's traditionally been a really popular combination. The rule of thumb is maybe put them on opposite ends of the windshield, so space them as far apart as you can. There was a post from I think it was an Escort engineer from years ago saying you're going to want to have them spaced 39 inches apart to minimize any chances of interference. I wish I could find that post. This has just kind of been one of those radar detector forum folklore things or something. I've never found the original post. If you guys find it, if you could comment and let me know, I'd love to read that original post and all the technical discussions. But that's kind of the rule of thumb that will vary depending on which detectors you're using. And so that's kind of why I want to see a little bit more about it. But if you space them on opposite ends of the windshield, that should help you minimize any sort of interference. I would not recommend stacking them vertically, farther apart, side to side, just due to the way the emissions come out and how one detector can see the other one more easily. That would be the way to go. I believe I have seen some cases, at least for me, where the V1 kind of put the Redline to sleep. Very rare, but it did happen. And it kind of starts to defeat the purpose of why you would add the Redline for the long range if the V1 is putting it to sleep. So it can happen, but those two tend to play better together than some other combinations. So that's the way to approach that one. Let's see. I'm driving for 30 years. Never seen, and I've seen a laser about 4 times. Wow, cool. You guys are funny. Let's see. What if I mount the Redline on my rear windshield? All right, 58. So Redline on the rear windshield, you could do that. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about the emissions. So if you guys have seen my Spectre testing, you probably noticed the detectors are more detectable with the Spectre in the front. If you move the Spectre off to the side, it's less detectable. The emissions can kind of reflect off the windshield and go back up, which is why I recommend not having one detector kind of stacked over the other, even if the detectors are angled a little bit. I've just, again, noticed playing around with the Spectre that the emissions are less, they spread less to the side than they do vertically. And so that's one of the reasons why I'd recommend doing that. You do kind of run into some issues where if they're farther apart, you'd have to reach way over to press a mute button or something. So maybe tacking on Bluetooth can be really helpful, or you look at the way the V1 is angled and stuff. But kind of coming back to your question, as far as the Redline on the rear window, you could do that. The mount might be tough because you're going to have to flip it around and you'd have the Redline pointed backwards, You'd have to look into some sort of custom mounting solution to have the Redline pointed forwards. And then maybe, again, tag on Bluetooth so you've got a remote mute button so you can mute your detector, or if you want to visually see the strength meter, you can do that. So it's possible. I've seen people stick them in headrests and stuff. There's different creative solutions you can do. So it's possible. The mount might be the trickiest part, and then make sure you have the Bluetooth would be the other thing. All right, so David, here's an interesting one. Any chance Escort will update the Max 2? So Max 2 updates. Yes, we are all waiting on the Max and the Max 2 updates. Escort has been promising this for months. All they just keep doing is promising it's due out any day soon, I promise it's due out any day soon. And then they just continue to miss the release date and promise again that it's going to come out. The issue is these detectors keep locking up. There's a firmware update that came out recently for the 360C. This was like maybe a week ago, if that. It has to do with addressing some of the overheating issues that it could potentially experience in the summer. So it's firmware 1.4, just came out. It does not address the lockup issues. So Escort is trying to fix the lockup issues. I can feel my coffee finally starting to kick in, which is excellent. They're trying to address the lockup issues for the Max360 and the 360C. They've improved the BSM filtering, which is great, but they've also added the lockup issue. And until they fix the lockup issue, it seems like they don't want to, and rightfully so, they don't want to bring those same firmware updates over to the Max and the Max 2. And so that seems to be the reason why it continues to be delayed. So yes, they're continuing to promise updates for the Max and the Max 2, but until they fix the lockup issue on the 360s, and so they can have good filtering and no lockups, until they do that, they're not going to most likely bring out the same filtering update for the Max 2, which is why they haven't brought it out yet. But yes, they continue to promise it, and no, they haven't forgotten about it. So that's kind of the story on the Max 2 updates. You guys are saying the same thing in the comments. Yeah, Bill G. Relax, Mac 2 update is coming in 2 weeks. Yeah. Odie Jones, didn't Escort buy Valentine? No, they did not. Valentine actually split off. Was it Escort splitting off from Valentine or Valentine splitting off from Escort years ago? I think it was Mike V. Originally worked for Escort. Gosh, this was probably the 1980s or something. Well before I got into radar detectors. I just read about it from you guys on the forums and stuff. I believe he actually worked with Escort and then eventually split off himself and started Valentine, kind of his own company, hence the Valentine by Mike Valentine. And yeah, he made his own radar detector. And so, no, they haven't been bought out. They're also based in Ohio, just like Escort, but no, they haven't been bought out. They're a very direct competitor, Escort and Valentine, but they are two separate companies. And yeah, it's funny, they used to be together, but now Mike started his own company. So yeah. Oh, hey, what's up, Sarge? Good to see you here. How you doing? Busy testing your TMG, or what you up to? Drinking your margaritas? Or no, what is it? The Bloody Marys, I know, your drink of choice. So let's see. Okay, yeah. Steve, he worked for Cincinnati Microwave when they made the Escort. Yeah, there you go. Bloody Mary. Cheers, Sarge. So yeah, you're right. He worked for Cincinnati Microwave, and that's kind of a cool read as far as the history. So something that's been interesting, maybe I'll mention this as another topic. There's been some stuff on the forums, and I'll add a link to this as well. Kind of Escort's financials. They've been bought out by Cedar and Monomoy, kind of an investment company who looking to kind of improve Escort. And there's a lot of kind of behind the scenes talk as far as that. Escort financially not doing too good. You guys, if you're subscribed to Escort's mailing list, you've probably noticed a lot of new marketing emails of like, hey, buy our new radar detector and coupons and discounts and all that kind of stuff. They're really pushing heavily on the marketing stuff. They seem to be kind of lacking on the engineering and R&D side, which is why one of the reasons why it seems to be that they're struggling so much to get firmware fixes for the Max 360s, and they're just releasing new detectors. Like I mentioned, they're coming out with looks like a new international version of the 360C. So yeah, new products, but they seem to be kind of lacking on the engineering stuff. And I'm not a investor, like I don't turn companies around on all that kind of stuff, but I would really like to see them work on their engineering. That would definitely improve my opinion and a lot of other opinions, and I'm sure your guys' opinions too of their products, and that would help with the sales too. So hopefully they work on the quality as well, not just on the marketing, if they're having any sort of financial stuff. But yeah. Okay. Sarge, a question about the new whistlers. Yeah, so let's add that one in. The new whistlers. So we're waiting on that. I haven't gotten any emails from Mike B. I haven't seen anything. I haven't gone out of my way to check that yet. But yeah, I haven't heard anything as far as the new whistlers that we saw at CES. Or well, he didn't actually have them on display. We just talked a little bit about them. One day I would love to do an interview with Mike B on camera, but he doesn't really like to be on camera. So I kind of chat with him behind the scenes, and then I report back afterwards, just me. It'd be cool to do a video with him. But yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see the updates on the new whistlers. We should have an improvement on sensitivity on K and KA band, but I'm still figuring the Uniden DFR6 and DFR7 will be better choices. Definitely better filtering. Plus, you've got your GPS lockouts. And so even if Whistler comes up to the range of the Unidens, honestly, I'm still going to be more interested in the budget Unidens over the Whistlers, but for the sake of competition and having more options and maybe something new to talk about, it'd be cool to see that come out, you know? So let's see, David, V1 and Yavi 1 stuff, 1956. I have a V1. The Yavi 1 app will not connect, but the V1Driver app will. I'm using the Note 8. Is it the phone or the app? Which Bluetooth module are you using? Are you using the longer V1C that's Android only, or are you using the smaller V1C LE, which is Android and iOS? V1Driver, I believe it can use either one, while Yavi 1 can only use the older V1C. If you have a V1C LE, even though that's now compatible with Android, Yavi 1 is not yet compatible with the V1C LE. And so you have to still use the older V1C module. They are working on updating Yavi 1, the app, for the V1C LE. I have both. Either will connect. Okay, cool. So yes, you are going to need to use the older V1C. Make sure also, I guess one other thing, and kind of the main culprit typically of why the apps won't connect, make sure you're not running the Valentine 1 Connect, V1 Connect app. If that's running in the background, you're not going to be able to connect a second app at the same time. So make sure you force close any other V1 apps, and then only one app should be connected to the V1 at a time. If you have another app running in the background, it will prevent a second app from being able to connect to the detector. So something to keep in mind, but yeah. Cool. So try the V1C, not the V1C LE if you're running on Android, and that should help. Let's see. 57. Okay, cool. So radar detector recommendation, 2129. Good morning, Vortex. Good morning, 57. Where I live, the police use only LiDAR guns, such as Laser Atlanta, and point-to-point speed cameras. There is no Ka-band or K-band. Would you recommend a couple of radar detectors best suited to my situation? Well, if they're not using radar, there's no point of using a radar detector. And, well, that's kind of awesome because laser is much easier to defend against a lot of times. You can actually jam laser, whereas you can't radar, you know? So I guess my question to you is, where do you live? I know you said Laser Atlanta, but that doesn't mean you live in Atlanta. That's just a laser gun. If they only use laser, then you're going to want a laser jammer. Again, traditionally, the top pick is the anti-laser priority. It's the best one available on the market right now. It sounds like you may not live in the U.S. I'm not sure. Again, let me know. So make sure you take a look at your local laws and make sure you, disable your jammers when shot, slow down, kill your jammers. You might have heard the story a couple months back about a guy in the UK who got pissed off as far as like speed cameras and intentionally ran speed cameras with jammers, and he did not disable his jammers, and he wound up like, I think he went to court and got like either prison time or really huge penalties or something, because laser jammers are illegal there, and he was kind of being an idiot about it. And so again, make sure you use your jammers properly and don't be dumb, you know? But other than that, again, just kind of let me know where you are and just be very aware of the local laws. If they're illegal in your area, I wouldn't, of course, recommend running them. But yeah. So Mike Leland, love the shirt. Yeah, RDF shirt. This was from 2312. Yeah, this was from a couple years ago, maybe. They ran a small batch of shirts on the forum, and it's kind of cool to have one. I kind of wish they would make more. Yeah, just to get more of these. So if you guys could post something on the forums, and the people in charge could like make some if you want one too. So let's see, Dave O, Redflex in Australia. So yeah, whenever you guys ask me about international stuff, again, I'm not a good person to ask about international stuff. I will happily recommend the forum to you guys so you can go and talk to other people in Australia. But you know, you've got so many other radar detectors that we don't have here, different firmware versions, you know, international versions of like the Redline, for example, they sweep to different frequencies. You've got different price ranges. Your detectors cost different things than we do. And so, again, I don't really super closely follow all the international stuff. The best thing to do, I think, would just be to hop on the forums and ask somebody else in Australia, and they'll be able to give you better ideas on, what detectors are capable of detecting the Redflex in the first place. That is a tough one to detect, and how much range. Is it 50 meters? Is it 200 meters? I don't know. So hop on the forums, and they'll be able to give you better information. This is an interesting question. The only Sarge about situational awareness versus range. So, in your opinion, curious which functionality you value more in radar detector, range or situational awareness? That's an interesting question. I think it really depends on the terrain. I'm curious to hear what you think too. Range is the one that usually you'll see in, which radar detector is the best? This one gets the longest range. The R3 has the longest range. Yay, I'm going to automatically buy that one. But that may not necessarily be what's actually the best for you. Maybe you need better filtering. Maybe you want situational awareness. The V1 is amazing at situational awareness, and there's nothing better that I've found. I mean, you pair it with JBV1 or V1 or V1Driver or something, it's unbelievable how much situational awareness you get. And I love that. I mean, being able to see the direction and the frequency and strength for every single signal, and if it's locked out or whatever, I love that. However, if you're driving in a situation where you're in the mountains or something and you're not going to get a ton of falses, you're just trees, and the main thing you need is sensitivity and range, there's times when the range is going to be more important. There's times if you're driving around the city and there's maybe handheld, low-powered instant on being used, intermixed with a lot of K-band door openers. You need the situational awareness to be able to better differentiate, hey, this is not just one of the 10,000 false alerts. This looks like something different. This looks like a legitimate signal. I need to know that. It's not about the range. And so I think it's very dependent on where you're driving and also your personality. Not everybody wants to do all that kind of stuff. For me, I'm a huge proponent of situational awareness, but I wind up finding myself running the R3 just because I find the range super helpful. And around here, it's mostly KA band and constant on. And so I'm just like, just give me the range. I'll be able to tell, if it's. So I find that to be more helpful day to day. But if I'm driving in areas where it's not about the range and I'm looking for the situational awareness stuff, especially on K band, where it's tougher to tell legit for false, it's situational awareness stuff. So I think it's easy to just, say which one is more important, but I think it's very subject to where you drive. Would you agree with that? I know you're a big fan of the V1. You've been talking about it on the forums, and I know some of the K-band stuff you've been talking about and the arrows, and it's awesome. I love the situational awareness stuff, and I wish other detectors that had the range of the R3 could do the situational awareness stuff of the V1. We're again kind of left of like, there's no one detector that's perfect in everything. They all have their pros and cons. And yeah, so I guess that's kind of my take on it. I'm curious to hear your thoughts too. So, and you guys, it sounds like I agree. In town, awareness, highway long, on the highway, long range. Bill saying, when in doubt, if the signal is strong enough, play it safe and slow down. Yeah, exactly. Dogs are here asleep. So let's see. It's silly questions. Let's see. Okay, so here is one. 2740. All right, so a question by Farrell Hancock. Is anybody making a detector that integrates with the magnetic mount to the power system? An example, I'm not sure what you mean. An example of this would be when the Garmin made a GPS navigation system, which magnetically mounted and powered in one. Can you clarify, Farrell, what you mean about a detector that integrates with the magnetic mount to the power system? Do you mean like, I don't really get what you mean by no power cord to plug in. Do you mean like battery operated, or maybe you plug it in via a magnet and there's like a wireless power cord goes directly to the magnetic mount? So I've seen kind of something to where the power can be transmitted through the mount. I've seen people actually plug in power cables into the mount, and then when you plug in the detector or a dash cam or something, there's like power pins, either wireless or with pins. Hey, buddy. Where the radar detector doesn't need a power cable directly into it because it can get power from the mount itself. I haven't seen anybody do that. I was actually talking with a radar detector company maybe a year ago about this, brainstorming an idea. I've seen somebody actually modify a V1 to do this. It was really cool. I think I've got a video on my channel. You could check it up, where he actually built a power plug in the mount. So he slides in his V1 and that automatically powers a detector. It's actually cool. So nobody does that. I think it would be really cool. Matt Guy, similar to the RCM display. Yeah, they do that. I know Stinger and the RCM, they have like the magnetic mounts, and that could turn off the detector if you pop off the display. So that's an option. I think those are the only two remotes that do that. I'm not sure about windshields. Hopefully that answers it. I'm still not totally clear, but that's kind of magnetic mount / power stuff. So yeah. Okay, this is an interesting one. Okay, so rear arrows for the Unidens. I know it comes up a lot, but it's a little different question, the variant on it. Anthony Loyacano, hopefully I said that right. Do you think an auxiliary rear antenna would be a good idea considering the Unidens getting arrows? Not sure if I want to upgrade mine. Arrows are great. I just installed a rear antenna this past week in my car for the Redenso RCM. It's been nice to have arrows again. I've been really enjoying it. I've been driving around the past week and I got arrows again, and it's been great. But an auxiliary rear antenna for the Unidens, people ask sometimes about, can you just have a rear antenna and like wire it in and plug it in? That starts to get kind of complicated as the detector is not originally designed for that. And do you plug it into the power port? Do you plug it into the USB? Maybe USB would make the most sense. But it would just be a lot easier to, instead of come out with a windshield mount with an auxiliary rear antenna that wires in, just come out with another detector that has arrows built into it already. That's so much simpler. They could sell a new product. It's cleaner. And yeah, I mean, that I think is the way to do it. So if they were to come out with a rear antenna, I'm sure it would be built into the detector just like other manufacturers are doing. An external rear antenna really only makes sense for remotes where you need to physically move it to the back of the car. You couldn't put it in the grill because you'd have a whole car blocking the rear antenna. So in that situation, it makes sense to do it. But otherwise, the detector in the windshield could just see out the rear window. So it kind of makes sense to just have it built into the windshield, and it's cleaner and simpler and easier. And so that seems to be the way that they would typically pronounce my last name perfect. Yay, good job. Oh, good job to me. Thanks. Glad I got it. So awesome. Okay. So coming back to AW57, continuation of best laser detectors currently overseas. Yeah, if you're overseas, you're going to run into issues with laser jammers. Be careful with local laws. Again, I can't talk too much about the international stuff. I know a lot of people don't necessarily want to run them. Some people do, and you can cover the heads to make them visually less visible and stuff. There are options, but yeah. 50. Oh, let's see. Okay. Omar, have you messed around with the Uniden SmartWire kit? No, I have not. I did a video recently talking about power cables, and you could watch that to see how compatible if you want. That's the closest I've done, but I've used a cigarette lighter power cable to show how the Uniden one works. Yeah, they're available now. You can get them. I'll add a link later to that, but if you go on like BRD's website, for example, he sells them. I think they're like $30 or something. It's basically a little box, and it has a remote mute button and an alert LED. Just like the cigarette lighter power cable. So if you want the detector installed somewhere and you want a remote mute button for it, that's available now. I haven't gotten one. I just use the same like power only hardwire cable for all my detectors. So I haven't messed around with any of those too much, like Escort Live or the Uniden one. So that's why I haven't done any videos about it. Let's see. Guys, so another thing I like to request, as always, please be respectful, courteous, mature. Thank you. So, I know it's YouTube and we get some characters on here, but I'll just want to say thanks for being cool in the chat. If you guys want to be silly, okay, do that on your own time. Anyways, coming back to it. Thank you. Let's see. Mute memory. Okay, so this is an interesting one about looks like lockouts and whatnot on K-band. So question by J Pavilion 2. There's some cops who use K-bands. When I use the mute memory on the K-band, it also mutes the K-band from the cops automatically too. What can I do for the R3? Yeah, so that's always one of the risks of using lockouts. If depending on how the lockouts are implemented, it can potentially lock out false alerts from police officers too. And that's, if you look on Mike V's website for the Valentine One, he can't put GPS in his detector due to patent restrictions. And so he kind of says, we will not do it because of the potential to lock out police officers. And it's true. And he winds up having a lot more false alerts. And so you had the whole boy who cried wolf thing. But yeah, that's one of the risks of lockouts. And some of the simpler implementations of lockouts that you'll see on like the Unidens or maybe the Redensos or the Escorts, if they're built into the detector, a lot of times they'll just lock out every signal within a frequency range. And if a cop also has a radar gun that's within this frequency range, and it's possible for your detector to lock it out. Fortunately, police radar guns are a lot more powerful than automatic door openers. So if he's shooting down the street, a lot of times you'll pick up his radar gun before you get into the lockout zone. And so you can definitely still get alerted to signals which would otherwise get locked out when you're close to the lockout area, but that's a risk of using lockouts. Again, we were talking a little bit earlier about situational awareness and it's cool stuff with the V1. One of the reasons that I really, really like it is it can individually tell, hey, I've got 3 locked out signals. I have a 4th new signal. It's a similar frequency and it's in the same location. It would be locked out with other detectors, but having this additional signal means that, this looks like a legitimate source. It could be a police officer within a lockout zone next to a speed sign in a shopping area. I'm going to alert you to it. So that's really cool. And that's something I really, really love about more sophisticated GPS lockouts. Kind of the trade-off of that is it'll be noisier, meaning it takes longer to see all of the signals and lock them all out. And sometimes you'll drive by an area where you have lockouts already, and then it starts alerting because it picked up a new K-band false that it didn't see on previous passes, and it's going to take a couple passes to lock it out. So it does wind up being a noisier solution, but it's also a safer solution. And that's kind of my preferred solution for having the best version of GPS lockouts. Plus being able to just on the phone see every single signal. It's pretty cool. But coming back to your question about doing it on the R3, that is kind of one of the limitations. It doesn't have the greatest lockouts ever. It's good. It's got them. It's kind of similar to the other approaches that you'll see in other radar detectors, but it does have the potential of, well, any implementation of lockouts can potentially lock out a police officer. And I've seen this with the V1. I've seen it with anything, you know. I have a video actually showing kind of this stuff. Like I think I called it Escort versus V1 lockouts, and it showed you like a visual version of how nice it is to have a new signal being seen on a similar frequency that doesn't get locked out. So that is just one of the risks of lockouts on the R3, and it is something important to be aware of. So yeah, always fun with this one. Okay, so questions about new detectors with Mike V. So the Valentine Two. What's the story with the mythical Valentine Two? Oh my God. I hope nobody's holding their breath for a new V1. I said it before. As soon as he releases one, like credit cards in hand, I'm ordering on the spot. I can't wait. I would love to get one. Now, as far as when that's going to come out, he's had a couple patents come out. Sometimes the patents have gotten denied and rejected, so he has to like redo the patent, and it's a slow process to go through the patent process. Some of them have been approved. But it's just taking forever for him to release a new detector. There's been a lot of talk, you know, is he just getting older? He's getting closer to retirement. He's not as motivated. He's just kicking back and saying, I got a bunch of money now. I'm cool. I'm happy. I'm happy driving my 918 Spider and enjoying his cars and stuff, you know, but he doesn't seem as motivated to keep coming out with new products. And imagine if a guy who's super close to retirement suddenly releases a brand new radar detector. And now it's like, oh man, I got a new product to support and all the customer service and the questions, and maybe he needs to hire out new people. And I mean, we can sit here and speculate as far as why it's taking so long to come out and, you know, kind of put the pieces together as best we can. But yeah, we're just kind of all waiting on it. So yeah, I believe he's got a 918. He's on the Porsche forums. He's not on the radar detector forums. He left years ago. But yeah, I remember him reading, like, he's a big Porsche fan. He's got a 911 and then he upgraded to a 918. So definitely a car guy, which is awesome. So that's, I think, where a lot of the money, and when you buy a V1, it helps fund his 918 fund. So behind the scenes stuff. Yay. So that's kind of the latest on the V1. We're all still waiting on that. They could release it tomorrow for all we know. And some of the things which have patent pending, or we're just all still waiting on it. And the question comes up pretty regularly, and we're all just like, I don't know. So yeah, no information about the V1, but I'm really looking forward to it. So, Gatso. This will be an interesting one. So another question about things that I don't know about. So Gatso, question about the Gatso GT3, GT4, GT5. What's the difference? I have no idea. And you're right, the Redline can't detect some of them. They are making some changes. The Gatso, they're looking to defeat radar detectors, and yeah, they are tougher as far as lower powered and frequency modulation. And we don't have them here in the US. I think we have some red light cameras that aren't radar based, also manufactured by Gatso, but none of the Gatso radar stuff. I don't think we have that here. But I know a lot of you guys overseas, I'm guessing you're, Australia or something, the Faro N1. Again, I don't really know about it. I haven't focused too much because we don't have them here. That would be another one of those things where I'd say, go to the forum, take a look there and ask people who are more familiar. Latvia. Okay, yeah, in Latvia. Again, I'm not a good person to ask for a lot of stuff outside of the US and Canada. I think about it sometimes how cool it would be to just like fly out to Latvia or to Australia or wherever, maybe Australia since they speak English, and just take a look and do a bunch of testing and videos of like all the threats that you guys encounter there with your radar detectors and do a little bit of research and talk to you guys. That would be a fun project to do down the line, but I don't have the radar detectors here. I don't have the radar guns here. There's a lot of limits as far as what I can actually do myself and how much I can learn being here. I would just be researching from you guys, Tripwave, a follow-up. We have Gatso vans in Canada. My unit can have issues detecting them. The beam width of the radar modules is set up in a way to help eliminate radar detectors. Yeah, so they do some tricky stuff to try and defeat radar detectors. And there's some detectors that can do it. I know there's been some updates to detectors to help detect these new detectors. I know Stinger traditionally has done a really good job. They were designed in the Netherlands originally, and it was designed specifically to detect the international ones. With the Stinger, you're going to run into issues with updates and support and all that kind of stuff. But that I think would be one to look into. Yeah, so maybe look into Stinger. That would be a good one for Europe that they focus on it, and maybe let me know after you talk to them which Gatsos can they detect. And again, I'm going to be learning from you guys. So if you want to do some research and tell me, I would love to find out. So yeah, cool. Okay, next question about motorcycles. Okay, so by John T. Can you comment on detectors and jammers for touring type motorcycles? I don't ride motorcycles. That question comes up quite a bit. And again, a lot of the stuff that I share with you guys, I want it to be things that I can test out myself firsthand. And, I'll definitely share third-party stuff and like, I was reading a review from somebody else or you guys were sharing. I read this was a good option for motorcycles, but okay, let's see. Bye. So motorcycle stuff. Yeah, I don't ride motorcycles, so I don't know all that much as far as waterproof mounts and then wiring into your headset. And is the speaker loud enough to hear when you're on a bike, or plugins to get visual LEDs to go off, or how easy is it to use your lockouts when you're driving, or with buttons if you're wearing gloves, like all this kind of stuff. I'm not really a good person to ask about motorcycle stuff. Again, as usual, go onto the forums. I could buy a motorcycle radar detector. I've thought about it. I've talked to TPX, who develops motorcycle-specific radar detectors. I know the performance is not that great. It's actually kind of bad. But they make some cool stuff about... they make some motorcycle-specific radar detectors with waterproof housings and special mounts you can clip onto the handlebars and stuff, and bigger buttons so you can access it while driving. Again, the performance isn't that great. I've talked to them about reviewing it. The reason I haven't, and we both agreed on it, was a lot of the benefits of those radar detectors I wouldn't be able to appreciate if I don't ride a bike. And so it's kind of one of those things where like I have sort of my specialties of things that I can focus on, but if I'm not really able to test it myself, I don't necessarily want to do a video on it. Although I would love to have that information out there, and I'm still looking for some really good resources on, motorcycle stuff. What do you think? I'd love to be able to refer you guys to somebody else who does really good motorcycle reviews. If you guys want to do that and make some videos, definitely let me know and comment. And I would love to watch it myself for my own education, and I'll refer other people to your videos. So again, as always, this is a collaborative effort. I'm learning from you guys, and I would love to share what you guys have to share as well. So let me know if you guys have any good resources on motorcycle specific stuff, and I'll be happy to share it. So J-Dub, trade shows. Yeah, so I love the trade shows, CES and SEMA. Yeah, I want to go back to both of them. I've already registered for SEMA and CES. Once that registration opens up, I'll go again. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I love going to them. It's great checking out the new products and meeting the new people. Or not the new people, new products, and meeting the same people again, seeing them at shows. I always really, really enjoy going. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be going again. I'm actually looking right now at upgrading my camera gear. Should I upgrade my laptop to make that easier? Make sure I've got good Wi-Fi to upload stuff. I'm upgrading my microphones, maybe looking at doing wireless microphones this year to make it easier when I'm doing interviews. Maybe upgrade my lenses for better video quality. So I'm kind of looking not only at like, am I going to go? Definitely. But also what can I do to improve the quality of my videos? I've got a new iPhone this year, the iPhone 8. So it does better selfies. So I can walk around through the show and do like a live stream. And the quality of that should be better. I really enjoy doing that toward the end once I've had a chance to walk around the show and get familiar with what's what and what's where. So yeah, pretty much at this point, I've kind of been like working on stuff behind the scenes of upgrading everything on my end so that once I do go to the shows, you guys will have a better experience, and well, I will too. So yeah, definitely going to go, and I'm looking forward to that. Anker Roav dash cams. Yeah. Okay. So what do you think? The Jones was asking about the Anker Roav dash cams. So I've been meaning to review one. I got the C1 Pro. God, I think I picked it up at like the last SEMA or CES, and I've been meaning to review it alongside the A119s. It's kind of the wedge-shaped dash cam, records at 1080p. I don't really like it that much, to be honest, for a couple reasons. Yeah, I've got one. They're here. I meet with them. Well, I used to meet with them a lot more often until Amazon changed their rules on posting reviews and stuff. But the issue with it, there was a couple things. One, I like the A119s better because they have a physical button for manually marking a clip. With the C1 Pro, they use like an LCD touchscreen, and you have to touch on the screen to like manually save a clip. It's tough to do when you're driving because what's it called? It's tough to find by feel. If you want to keep your eyes on the road, it's nice to have a physical button to be able to press the button. To do it on the LCD, you don't get good feedback as far as did I actually press the button. I've had situations before where I've accidentally turned off the microphone because I thought I was trying to manually save a clip, and instead I disabled the microphone and I lost all my audio. I actually ran it for a while as like my permanent dash cam. Permanent as I was switching out other ones. And the reason I say permanent is it's really hard to pull the memory card out of there. And so it was the one where if I am constantly pulling out memory cards in my dash cams, sometimes I get back in the car and I start driving and I forget to take my memory cards back into my dash cams. It happens quite a bit. And so I actually keep backup memory cards in my glove box now to put them in if my dash cams start complaining they don't have a memory card. The C1 Pro, it's really tough to get the memory card out. And so it would kind of force me to not take the card out. So it's the one that I wouldn't mess with too much to pull out the card or even press the buttons. It would just always be running in the background. And so while I'm messing with other dash cams, it's the one that would be running as my kind of fixed permanent dash cam. I've since taken it out and replaced it with the A119 Pro, I think, just because I like it better day to day, easier to pull out the card and whatever. But yeah, I'm meaning to do a review on it. That's going to be kind of my take on why I don't recommend them over the A119s, but you can get them cheap, and it's good to see another manufacturer actually working on them. That was one when I was talking with them when they were still developing the Roav brand, and we were talking about, you know, they had a couple different prototypes. They were like design models. They sent me, here's a couple different dash cams that we want to make. And so we were talking about designs and features that it needed and price point and how it compared to the competition and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they're out now. I'm not a super huge fan of them. That's why I think the A119s are a better pick. But yeah, they're popular. They go on sale all the time. If you look on Slick Deals, you'll find discounts on A1 or on the C1 and all that kind of stuff. So they're fine as far as the quality and whatnot, but I like the A119s better. So yeah. Okay, dash cam battery packs. So 4758. Work on my note-taking stuff here. So question by J Pavilion 2. Vortex, I found a battery pack where it's cheaper than the B124 and it's only $90 USD. Can you let me know which model it was? The make and model. I'm curious to hear which one you're talking about. But you said it's only $90 USD, and someone even posted a review about it on the parking mode on the Blackview. Cool. Yeah, I'm curious to hear. So I've actually been putting my thoughts together. I've actually got my notes here. I want to work on the first video I want to do is I'm going to break it up. Dash cam battery packs versus portable battery packs, like the ones you'll get to charge your phones. Here we go. Amaso 42,000 milliamp hour portable all-purpose charger. So yes, you got a couple issues with that. I've looked into that too, like laptop battery chargers and stuff. Usually one of the issues with those battery packs is they take forever to charge. Hey, what's up, Emmanuel? A lot of them you'll run into issues where, and okay, I guess to kind of give you guys a preview of like some of the things that I'm going to be talking about in an upcoming video. A lot of times those battery packs are lithium ion and they're not designed to be run in cars where you have maybe like high heat. If you remember the Samsung Galaxy S Note, batteries exploded and the whole product got recalled. Those batteries are not good in the heat. They have to like really design around it. That's one of the reasons that they use lithium iron phosphate, different types of batteries for dash cam batteries. You also run into issues where batteries, if they're not dash cam batteries, they may take hours and hours and hours to recharge, and you are usually not going to be driving for like 4 or 6 hours to be able to fully recharge those batteries. You know, you run into issues sometimes, and usually with these ones, like Some batteries can't recharge while you're driving and then also power your dash cam simultaneously. Some can, some can't. So you run into some issues. So I haven't done my research on that one. I'll have to take a look at it later. Here, I'll just copy and paste this one and put it in my notes for later, one to look into. Thanks. But yeah, you usually do run some limitations, and there are a couple practical and some safety things as far as why it's sometimes not recommended to run dash cam batteries that aren't designed for dash cams. And those are kind of some of the things. And I'll go into more detail on my, what's it called, when I actually get into these videos. But yeah, that's kind of some of the thoughts on that. Paul McCracken, would you recommend, let's see, 5022, would you recommend running the ALP with my 360C? Yeah. If you want a laser jammer, run the ALP. Next question. So, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Farrell Hancock. My Escort suction cup mount always falls off in hot weather. Yeah, so that happens. Do you have the sticky cup, the big single black sticky cup, or do you have the dual suction cup? I find issues with both of them where in hot weather, the mount can fail and your detector will fall. I had this actually with my 360C in my car. My mount, I keep cleaning the windshield and the sticky cup and it keeps falling off. Maybe the fact that I keep taking it on and off so much, but a lot of times I'll come back into my car and I'll have my detector just hanging from my hardwire cable because the mount failed. So I have that issue too. You can always do the things where if it's normal sticky cups, put it in hot water to help get the shape back so it's got more stickiness and more suction. Make sure the windshield is clean, the suction cup is clean. It's best not to take the mount on and off all the time. Give it a strong mount and then just leave it. If it fails, and it does happen, you can always upgrade to like a Blendmount or something and you don't have to worry about the detector falling off. Yeah, so that would be an option. Yeah. So cool. All right, next one. Okay, so question, V1 versus Max360c. So which one would you choose? Again, as always, there is no one size fits all answer. I love the V1 for the situational awareness stuff. When I need that, that's the one I run. That said, day to day, I wind up finding myself gravitating more towards the 360c, mostly just because I don't want to have to run a phone to be able to look at all the stuff. And a lot of the cool stuff going on, like JBV1, it's happening more on the Android side. iPhone is cool too with V1Driver, but I like having the frequency display right there dedicated on screen and not having to glance over at my phone and that kind of stuff to see the frequency on a pop-up that kind of comes and then goes away, and or you have to like go into the app and stuff. So I just prefer the automation. I've got a second Max360c now. NPark right now has one. He's going to send it back when he's done driving around with it. And I'm going to upgrade my my wife's, she's got a Redenso XP that I'm running for her right now. I'm going to switch her over to the 360C to just give her arrows, run it KA band only. Basically just to have arrows and to have the firmware update process happen automatically so I don't have to bring her detector home and update it for like red light cameras and stuff. It can happen when it's in the car. So that'll be kind of convenient. So I'm just going to give her one of my extra 360Cs. I could give her the V1, but I only have one of those and I love the detector and I want to keep it. So it really comes down to if you want the best lockouts and situational awareness, get the V1. If you want more automation and integration, get the 360C. So that kind of seems to be what differentiates them the most. 360C, it's easier to set up. You don't have to worry so much with custom sweeps. You can do them, but it doesn't improve performance the way it does in the V1. And so you don't have to get into, oh no, but out-of-tune guns, and where do I set my sweeps to get better frequencies? And should I maybe go wider sweeps to account for out-of-tune guns? And where do I drive? Like, you don't have to get into as much of that stuff for the 360C. And for a lot of people, that's really nice, you know? But yeah, so let's see. Okay, so more 360C questions about Wi-Fi. Got my dog licking my hand right now, so I got to do this one-handed. Okay, there we go. So question by Paul McCracken. Can you see question above on connectivity issues with the 360C connecting to car's Wi-Fi? Connects to MiFi, but not charger. I must have missed the question above. It should connect to the Wi-Fi. As long as your Wi-Fi hotspot has internet, supplies internet, your car should be able to connect out to it. I'm not sure what you mean about the charger. Doggy, say hello, Albus. Say hey. Little doggy. I love my doggy. He loves licking my hands. So I'm just going to let him sit here and lick my hands, and hopefully it doesn't get too annoying on the mic. If it gets noisy, I'm going to tell him to stop. But so, yeah, for power, it should get power for a Wi-Fi hotspot, or Albus, as in Albus Dumbledore. So Albus. Elvis is usually what people hear when we tell them, because it's kind of a weird name. Albus? And they go, Elvis? Like, no, Albus. So, yeah. Oh, interesting. So you took it to Escort in Westchester and they couldn't figure it out. Connecting to the car's Wi-Fi. It connects to MiFi, but not the charger. Can you clarify a little bit about what you mean? I'm sure what the issue was. Pretty much as long as you've got a Wi-Fi hotspot that supplies an internet connection, your detector should be able to connect to it. I think it's 2.4. Yeah, it's 2.4 gigahertz only. It doesn't connect to any 5 gigahertz hotspot. So just make sure you've got a 2.4 gigahertz signal. But yeah, I've tested it just on my home's Wi-Fi. It's worked. I couldn't tell you about in-car Wi-Fi. I don't know if there's any weird stuff with that. But yeah. So the Faro N1. How many radar detectors do you have? I have no idea. I don't know. I'm constantly getting new ones, and windshield mounts, maybe like 10 of them. Remotes installed in my car, I've got only 3 right now. The Stinger, the NetRadar DSP, and the Redenso RCM. The RCM I have like kind of permanently installed. It's my favorite of those 3. I'd love to get a Max360 360 at some point. The NetRadar DSP, I usually leave it unplugged, because if you have the antenna plugged in and you have it like a profile set up with no radar even, the detector antenna is still on, so it causes falses on the RCM nearby. So I have to literally unplug the NetRadar DSP. So I have the antenna installed on my grill, but the antenna is physically unplugged, and I only connect it, I guess, really for testing purposes. Otherwise, I'm not a huge fan of the interface of it, so I don't use it day to day. And the Stinger, not a huge fan of that either. So user. Okay, so I just leave the display like in my glove box, and I never really power that one on. So yeah. So I don't really use that one. So 3 remotes. As far as windshield mounts, I don't know, probably about 10 or something. But I'm constantly getting new ones in and out, maybe selling old ones or giving them away sometimes, or I pick up a new one, or sometimes I have one sent in for testing purposes. So what I have here is always kind of changing, but yeah, I don't really know how many I have, probably something like that. So yeah, actually, I'm kind of curious from you guys, what detectors are you guys running? Are you running windshield mounts? Are you running remotes? Like, do you have multiple? I'm kind of curious to hear like which ones you guys are choosing, why. That might be like a fun poll to do or something sometime. Like, what detectors are you guys running? Looks like we got Max 1, we've got a DFR7. Actually, while you guys are answering that, let's get R3 and V1, R3. Mount, let's see, I'm running R3, DFR6, DFR7, Max360c, R1, DFR7, Redline EX, V1 and R3, 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 Magnum, R3. A lot of R3s. I'm R5, Rocky Mountain Radar, XP. So a lot of R3s, Max 360s. I guess I'm still kind of surprised, but not surprised at how popular the R3 is. Like, it's Whistler XTR 695, R3, R3 V1, R3 RX65. Yeah, RMR was kidding, of course. Yeah. So I guess I'm kind of surprised at how popular the R3 is. Like, I would think Uniden's kind of surprised at this too. Like, for a company to just come out with like awesome performance and good filtering, it's not the best. I wish they would improve the filtering. I know they're working on that. And it's got lockouts. It's got a good price. It's got updates. They're actually improving it. Like, just come out with an awesome product, and you don't have to have a bunch of like crazy marketing and stuff. I mean, a lot of you guys telling your friends or me doing the video, it's just like, it's actually an awesome detector. Uniden doesn't do it. Well, I guess one of the reasons I'm surprised is it kind of came out of nowhere and released an awesome detector at a more affordable price. That, like, I mean, you got the DFR 6 and 7, which are like kind of some of the best budget detectors. You got the R3, which is like the best high-end detector. I mean, like, it's kind of amazing to have them show up and just clobber a lot of what's going on with the V1 and the Escort, people who've been doing this for years, and they just show up and come out of nowhere and going boom with this detector. It's the LRD 950 when that came out, to have a budget detector that can perform that well with lockouts. And I mean, gosh, it's been cool seeing what they've been doing, but it kind of came out of left field. I remember when before Uniden came out, you guys would always ask, what radar detector do I get? I want a detector around $100 or $200, and we would always say, sorry, you got to spend at least $400 for a Redline, a V1, or a Max360c. Those are the 3 detectors to recommend, and they're all $400 plus. And it would always be, if you want a good detector, you're going to have to spend more money. And then Uniden shows up out of nowhere with the LRD 950, $200, performance comparable to the V1, and lockouts built in, and all this kind of stuff. And we're like, what the heck? I remember testing the LRD for the first time, and it had a K-band filter that could filter out BSMs and didn't impact range. And I was like, I went out and remember retesting this, and I'm like, the V1 TMF reduces range. Escort's TSR reduces range for both the Redline and the Max360. And we're like, what is going on with Uniden? How do they have a K-band filter that doesn't affect range, that has a good price, that has lockouts, that has good range on K-band and on KA? Like, it's been kind of wild watching this whole thing. And I'm surprised more people don't think I'm like a Uniden biased salesman or something, I'm actually glad I don't get that a lot. I think I do a good job of like, hey, I'm not biased toward any manufacturer. I think they're actually creating a good product. And you guys have a lot of them too. And you guys are also really happy with them too, and it would be one thing if I'm like, hey, everybody go buy this detector. It actually sucks. And then you guys are like, Vortex, I bought what you said and I have a horrible experience. Why? And, you guys are actually happy with it. No, the detector is not perfect. Like sometimes you'll ask about the laser falses and stuff too. And so, let's just open book. Let's talk about everything good and bad. And here's the options. Anyways, kind of an aside, I guess, watching all that. So, I'll have to go back and figure out when that one started. Okay, so any news on future R3 firmware? No, not really. Future R3 firmware, I'm not beta testing any new R3 firmware right now. I know a lot of people ask, what about the MRCD stuff? I know they're still working on that. They are working on other stuff behind the scenes. They've shared a little bit as far as what's to come. I don't know an ETA. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. I don't have a beta that I'm testing here. When I have more information, of course, be happy to share with you guys, videos, all that kind of stuff. So that'll be posted on the forums. It'll be on Twitter. I'll do a video about it, all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Let's see. ZR5 question. Okay, cool. Something other than Unidens to talk about. That's always good. Mike Leland, ZR5. Would you consider them mid-pack, a little better than Blinder, but below ALPs? I think they're actually pretty good jammers. They are not as good as the ALPs, but effective and solid. And you got smaller heads. Like they're a lot of times more effective than the Stinger jammers. The only issue is there's not really a good reason to get it. Like the only reason I could think of to get ZR5s is if you have an Escort windshield mount and you really, really, really want it integrated with your windshield mount radar detector. Otherwise, if you're cool with having like a control pad button there or something, you can have more effective laser jammers that actually get updated more frequently and without getting into they treat their customers better and blah, blah, blah. Without all that stuff, if you want the integration with your radar detector, cool. But otherwise, there's not really a competitive advantage to going for that. The ALPs are just a more effective product, period. So the ZW5s, wireless integration with your radar detector, that's cool. That actually does have a competitive advantage. I'll give it that. But with the ZR5s, no. Graph performance, any news about the new V1? We've talked about that earlier. Nope. Okay, blinder test. So let's talk about blinder a little bit. Yes, so by Dave O, Radar Roy, blinder test seemed very impressive. It did years ago, yeah, before like ALP really came out. It was blinder versus the LIs were like the two big ones. I used to run blinder HP 905s before I had my ALPs. And the reason I ran them, even though Laser Interceptor LI was kind of considered to be the better jammer, the heads were physically large and they didn't really fit into my grill. So I went with the LIs, which had smaller heads, and so they did a better job fitting in my grill. I was happy with it. I like the fact that you could set your jammers into receive mode. You didn't have to cut power automatically. So if you see a cop up ahead, you can kill your jammers before you get shot and still tell if you get shot. You didn't have that capability with the LI. You'd have to shut them off altogether, and then you don't know if you get shot. So I liked them back in the day. The issue is, well, can they jam new laser guns? And the answer is no. They stopped updating years ago. Blinder dude, Micah, I believe it was, or no, it was Leon. Sorry, he passed away a couple years ago, and he was one of the main blinder guys. And so blinder doesn't really do anything anymore. Leon's wife came on the forums like February of last year or something when that happened and was saying, hey, you know, we're working on a new product. The new blinder laser jammers, it was supposed to replace the ASP905, came out. And because they didn't really have somebody to distribute them, they went to Escort. And now what would have been the new blinder laser jammers with Dragon Eye support is actually the ZR5s. So the ZR5s would have been the blinders, but they're being sold under the Escort name, kind of like how the Escort Laser Shifter Pros, the LSPs, were rebadged laser interceptors. The ZR5s, the Shifter Max, are rebadged blinders. And so, yeah, what should have been an update for the blinder is actually being sold under the Escort name. So yeah, the old HP 905s, no more updates. If you have them, it's probably, if they're sitting in a box, it would probably be good to sell them without installing them. I sold mine and then I put the funds towards upgrading to the ALPs. So yeah, so I'm not really expecting anything else as far as blinder. And that's kind of the story behind all that behind the scenes. So yeah. Oh, this is a fun one. Ski Bike 01. How did I get into testing radar detectors? I just got in it because background, I'm an engineer, electrical and computer engineering. Kind of what I did before this. I'm more of a technical guy. You probably noticed, and I really like to find out things for myself. I saw people who online were doing tests, and my first radar detector that I bought was a 9500iX, and I was not really that happy with it. I mean, it was kind of a good general purpose decision, but I wish that I'd bought the V1. It was a better detector for me. And the reason that I didn't buy the V1 was the radar detector expert that I listened to online didn't sell V1s. He was an Escort guy, and he was recommending Escort because he had a store online and that's what he could sell. And he couldn't sell a V1. If you want a V1, you have to go onto Mike's website and buy it direct from Valentine. Valentine doesn't, what are you guys doing? They don't sell through distributors. And so if you run a radar detector store, you can't sell the V1 yourself. You have to just recommend somebody else. And so he would sell Escorts and whatever he could sell. So it was more of what was best for him, not necessarily what was best for me. And that kind of upset me at the time. And I was like, I want to know what's actually best for me, period. So I would just start testing. So I remember I bought I had a Redline, it was popular on the forums. I had my 9500iX, I had a V1. So I just started testing for myself. I would do some long range tests. What about lockouts? What about quick trigger stuff? I would sit and I'm like, all right, let's find reactivity with different filters. And so I just kind of started testing because I really wanted to, just to find out for myself, how does this stuff work? And if I enable this filter, how much will it negatively impact the performance? And I've got low powered instant on K-band to deal with. Is this going to be an issue for where I drive? So I'd buy the radar guns that police have in use in my area and test them out. And so I would just want to, for myself, figure out what detector is actually the best for where I drive and what I need and for my own personality. And so I would just do videos and tests, and it just kind of naturally evolved from there. And, I would just start doing it, and I would get better at sharing my information and presenting information and doing reviews. And that kind of evolved into all of this. So it became my own desire to learn and to understand and to know, which has turned into this. So that was actually why I got into testing radar detectors, was for my own selfish reasons, for my reasons, because I want to know. And this has always been for me a big thing of the reason I got into this is to know the truth, to get accurate information, to find out what's actually the best for me. And it was a process for me. When I got into okay, I'll recommend detectors to you guys and I make affiliate commissions. When you guys buy, I will make money. If you buy some detectors, Redensos or Unidens or Escorts, if you use my links in the video descriptions, if I recommend a V1, I don't make money. That's okay. I will recommend it. I will tell you how awesome it is and what's fantastic about it. If it's a good choice for you, I will tell you about its limitations. And even if you buying a V1 means that I don't make money, I think that's okay. To me, it's kind of a cost of doing business, and it's the right thing to do. And I also like to set this up in a way where I make money no matter what you guys buy, whether it's YouTube ads playing or you supporting me on Patreon or, all this kind of stuff, right? I don't want to have all my money tied to what detector I recommend, because I want to sit back and be this objective, third-party, unbiased detector. And if money influences stuff, okay, but I have to be very clear that I'm going to recommend what's best for you, even if I wouldn't necessarily make money about it, because I've been in your shoes too. And that was what got all of this started. And for me, that's super important. And so, Yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's why I got into this, and that's how it started, and that's why I do what I do the way I do. So yeah. Oh, new radar detectors by Driver66. So any new radar detectors on the horizon? I will say yes. I can't tell you which manufacturers. I can't tell you functionalities or what they are going to be, if they're replacing something or if they're coming out with, maybe a new model that's going to be sold alongside it. Yes, I'm aware of some new products that will be coming out. No, I can't share that with you at this time. I would love to. Yeah, manufacturers share stuff with me as far as things that they're working on. We'll kind of, in the earlier stages, work on developing or talk about what's to come and stuff, price point, all that kind of things. So yeah, of course, but there's always new stuff coming out. I mean, it's like cell phones. There's always going to be a new phone coming out, So there's always new laptops coming out. In the world of tech, there's always new stuff coming out. So it's not really a big surprise. Okay, so when I can share, I leave that up to the manufacturers typically. I don't sign NDAs with them. It just kind of comes down to like an honor code or something. Like if they ask me to not share, I won't. And a lot of times stuff, it's like we talk about stuff behind the scenes and it's meant more to help improve the products. It also helps me because I get earlier information, and once the product is released, I've got more history and understanding, and I can do better reviews and give you guys better information, which helps the company. It just helps everybody, So I really like being involved. And I kind of vary the extent to which I get involved. How much do I help them develop and all this kind of stuff? That's another topic. But pretty much as far as when I can share, it's usually closer to launch. A lot of times they don't like that information being shared too early, because if I say, hey, there's a replacement coming for this product, that would kind of halt sales for their current product. And if they're like, well, we kind of want to clear out inventory and we want to sell old inventory before the new one comes out to replace it, if they announce, months in advance that a replacement is coming, people will stop buying the old one. So that's a lot of times why they don't want to share that information. And I also have to keep that in mind. See, Mike, as far as like, a lot of times I will recommend, and I know you guys are going to ask, don't use this as like a thing to say, is there a new one coming? Sometimes I will kind of have this in the back of my head and I won't be like, go buy this radar detector initially. Sometimes they be running discounts and sales or something to try to clear out old inventory. Sometimes there's a new one coming out very soon. And so I won't be pushing a new one. I'll be like, maybe not mention it. I'll be kind of waiting because a new one is coming out. So I will sometimes use that in the back of my mind as far as which detectors I'm recommending and when. But I also have to be very cautious of like, if there's things that I can't talk about, it's usually at the request of the manufacturer, and it's not really appropriate to talk about it yet. And again, when I can share it, you guys know I'll post the information. I'll do videos. I just have to make sure, of course, all the information is correct, that I don't put out any information that's incorrect. I have done that in the past a few times. So I just have to make sure I do a good job, and I'll do a correction video, and I hate doing that. So I just have to make sure that I'm very clear on what I post and when, and making sure that everything is accurate. But pretty much when I can, I will. If I can't, I won't. And that's kind of some of the behind the scenes stuff as far as timing and what I can share and when. So yeah. Okay, so Max360c lockups. So you're the best. I bought a new 360C. No lockouts at all, 4 weeks now, or lockups. Bought directly from Escort. Only certain serial numbers are locking up. Interesting. I haven't heard anything about only certain serial numbers locking up. That's a first. Just wanted to let you know that not all are locking up. So yeah, I think we did a poll in the forum. About 2/3 of people have reported that their detectors are locking up. I honestly would be very surprised if there was some sort of hardware change preventing the lockups. And the reason I say that is because the Max360, firmware 1.5 and earlier with the older serial numbers, didn't lock up. They didn't have the same level of K-band BSM filtering, but they didn't lock up. When a new software firmware version came out, then that created the lockup. So it wasn't a hardware thing, it was a software thing. They changed the BSM filtering to improve it, but they then also created the lockups. It was firmware 1.6 and newer. 1.6 and 1.7 have that. So yeah, that's kind of oh, sorry, I was reading that and you just Made me lose my train of thought. Sorry. Anyways, I think it's a software thing, which is why I would say I would be really surprised if certain serial numbers of the Max360 are not locking up. I would like to see more testing and confirmation about that. And if it was a hardware change, yeah, that would really surprise me because I don't know. So my guess, I could be wrong. My guess is that, you guys haven't seen the lockups yet. It only seems to be in certain instances. I haven't seen it happen on the road. I've only had it happen in bench testing. But then again, I don't run the Max360s too often. So yeah, it seems to only happen sometimes, not always. So I would guess that you guys just haven't seen it yet because it doesn't happen super often. But I guess it would just be a matter of time. So I don't know. That's my guess. So I kind of have my doubts as far as it being a new serial number thing. But if you have more information about maybe what serial numbers or whatever, maybe let me know. I'd like to do a little bit more reading on that. But that's kind of my initial thoughts. So yeah, cool. Something else, yeah, if you guys want, I know sometimes the questions are going by super fast. YouTube has a super chat thing where you can make it like pop up and you'd pay like $1, $3 or whatever it is. And it's a super chat and it basically makes it flash on my screen. So I see it and it's bright colors and everything. And that's basically a way that, yeah, you can support my channel. Awesome. Thank you. And it also ensures that I see it and I'll be more, focused on those ones. Because I would love to answer all the questions, but with them going by so many times, and I know you guys are asking several times, sometimes it is harder to cover everything. So that would just be a way to help me see your questions if you keep asking and I keep not seeing them. So yeah, there's not really much stuff that's off limits here in terms of radar detectors. The only thing I ask, of course, is be respectful and that kind of stuff. Good idea. Does a super chat pass cash back to you to Vortex? Yes, it does. That's kind of a thing you can do, and it's a way to support me, I guess. And send a super chat. I've never really used the feature too much. Paul, $1.99. Oh, that's cool. Hey, thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm still again kind of figuring out a lot of this YouTube stuff. So yeah, okay. Oh, cool question. I was talking about more interesting technical stuff. Okay, Sarge. So here's a question about low power stuff. Make a quick note as far as the timing. Let's see. So here in Texas, we're now seeing the low-powered K-band guns. Is it like Falcon HR and Raptor RP1? Do you mean those K-band guns? It's getting difficult to filter out and pick out the low-powered guns. Huge threat now. Yes, so I saw that too. I've got those guns now around here. The V1 with YaV1 was my favorite tool to be able to tell it's a legitimate alert and I haven't seen it before. So if you're running, and I know you do the V1 with the apps, that seems to be one of the best sources to pick those up. And their TMF2 doesn't implement a huge impact to range and reactivity. So yeah, the V1 with an app seems to be one of the best tools to get those figured out. So, okay, Paul, thank you. Let's get to you next. Which would you add ZR5s to the 360C or add ALPs in tandem to the 360C? Okay, so 360C, and then the question is going to be ALPs versus ZR5s. Personally, I would recommend, and I run myself, the ALPs. Better laser jammer, more effective. The only downside is some of the things are optional extras like the speaker, so it might cost you a little bit more to do it. And you don't have the same integration on the radar detector to be able to kill your jammers with the mute button. But I mean, the ALPs are, they're more effective. You can get more heads. You can, they're better at jamming. I mean, they're updated more frequently. They have things to where the jammers can automatically disarm after a couple seconds, whereas you can't get that functionality with these ZR5s. And so the features are better, the functionality, the jamming capability, the updates, they're just better jammers. And so really the only advantage is you can integrate it with a mute button, which personally I don't think is a huge deal. So yeah, I would recommend going for the ALPs over the ZR5s if you have the 360C. So yeah, J Pavilion, thank you. So yeah, okay, so let's see. Suggesting the R1. Okay, so here's one. Virginia question. So this one comes up pretty commonly. Should I take down my R1 when traveling to Virginia this week? Do I really need to worry since it's my upper windshield tint? So if radar detectors are illegal, I don't advise running them. It's always that. Now, radar detectors are You can always run it behind your tint to make sure it's visually not visible. If an officer sees it, maybe if he's parked next to you, of course, they can give you a ticket. The penalties for, I think it's like in Virginia, it's a $40 ticket if you get caught with the detector, plus the court costs. You get, I think it's like just under $100 or something. There's no confiscation anymore. There's no, the penalty, there's no like points to your license or anything like that. So penalties are honestly kind of minimal. It's not like, places overseas where they'll like impound your car and there's like thousands of dollars worth of penalties and that kind of stuff, So, I mean, I know people in Virginia, honestly, who have run the V1 for years with no issue, which is kind of surprising because it's not RDD immune, But it's not a huge deal. I'm not even sure if they run the Spectre there or if they're still running VG2s. Dogs, no mounting. So, ran R3 in Virginia all the way. No one bothered me. Yeah. So the dogs are here. They're waking up. So it's not a huge deal. Good thing is, yeah, that's true. Amanda's saying living in Virginia, the police assume that you don't have a radar detector. So they're always using constant on, which is great. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of times there's not going to be a huge issue with it. But, it's not a huge threat, I guess, at the end of the day. But to do the right things, all the dogs in the act. Yep. So they're playing. They're having fun. It's a Sunday morning. This is Lexi, and the white one is Albus. We're dog sitting for a friend who's out traveling. So, and these two dogs are like great friends. So they're playing together, having a fun time, all that kind of stuff. So, so cool. Signing off. Good to see you, Dave. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. See you guys later. So, yeah, let's see. BWX is saying, all right, let's do this. Let's see. Ran the DFR7 all the way through Virginia, south and north, left it up because I saw no signs, never a problem. So great. Thank you. Yeah. Glad to hear that you didn't have any issues. And yeah, it's kind of one of those things where people are concerned about it. And of course, if it's illegal, I do not advocate it, but I can tell you, of course, there's a lot of people who do run it and there's no issue. So, no, I'm not signing out yet. I was just saying bye to Dave. So, yeah. John Ross, dogs want to know real measurements, good and bad on the ZW5. All right, so hey guys, doing video here. Thank you. Coming back to ZW5, I guess size stuff you were wondering about. I did a what's it called? A video. I posted some stuff on my website about the size. I had the Shifter Max and the ALP, and I did like some side-by-side comparisons, so you could take a look. Look at my website for the like either ZW5 or Shifter Max. I've got a photo comparison so you could see. I think the Shifter Max is slightly smaller, like it's slightly narrower or something. And but otherwise they're pretty similar in size. It might be longer, I forget. Again, just take a look at the photos. Similar to the ALP, but I do think it's a little bit smaller. And then they've got the specs and the exact dimensions. You can look them up online and Google it. So if you're looking to see if the heads will physically fit in your grill, yeah, take a look at the specs. And was that at least a year ago? Anything new on the performance? Not much has changed. I don't think Escort has released an update for the jammer in a while. The only real updates for the laser jammers were when they first came out and they couldn't jam the Dragon Eye, and they got super pissed off at everybody who was posting videos showing, even after they said, yes, we can jam the Dragon Eye, and people were saying, no, it can't. It can't even alert to the guns. They started accusing everybody of lying and banning people off their forum and all this kind of stuff. It was not a pretty thing. That was kind of a big part of how Escort turned a lot of people against their community was, yeah, it was not a pretty thing. There was a lot, and they accused everybody of fake news and all this kind of stuff, only to then release an update showing that, yes, they can now jam a lot of the newer Dragon Eye guns. There's a lot of people who've just gotten really pissed off at Escort and the way they have handled updates and their lack of continued updates. I mean, there hasn't been one in a while. And so, yes, they can jam a lot of the Dragon Eye guns, but people just don't want to buy them. I mean, I don't want their jammer. I'm not going to spend a lot of time testing it. And I'll tell you flat out, like I have before, get the ALP instead. It's updated more frequently. It handles new guns. There's not really much of a competitive advantage in seeing what Escort is doing, the way they approach Albus. Quit it. Apparently, our dogs are, they're feeling it. So, there's not a lot of tests, and just watching the way things are handled, I don't have the confidence. I don't have the same sense of like faith in Escort, and yeah, they haven't released an update for a while, and a lot of us are not like super gung-ho about testing their jammer, because at the end of the day, it's going to be like, okay, maybe it's better, but still get the ALP. They still haven't added the feature to let you disable your jammers after a couple seconds. So anybody who's running the ZR5, if they don't know about JTK, they will jam to gun the police officer. And Escort still hasn't added basic functionality like disabling your jammers at low speed or after a couple seconds. They had it with the LSP, but they don't even care enough to add disabling your jammers after a couple seconds. K40 has that. Their default is like 10 seconds or something. But I wish they would do it smaller, but at least they have the option. Escort, they mentioned it on the forum, and we're thinking about adding it or something. So, like, I don't know. I'm not super thrilled about Escort jammers. So even if there's updates, there hasn't been one for a while. Even if there is, I'd still recommend the ALP just because it's got so many advantages. So it's not one that we're super gung-ho about testing. So whatever. Yeah. Team AJ, are there any issues with the ALP? Let's talk about ALP issues. Yeah, so there are some. It's not a perfect jammer. I mean, there is no perfect product. There are things like, yes, it's more expensive than the competition. There's things like, if you pair it with the radar detector, the Net Radar DSP, the integration isn't that great. I talked about that earlier in this video. I don't think it's super awesome, the radar detector integration. If you lose a GPS sync, I have this issue where when I go into tunnels, I've disabled the GPS notification audibly, but I still get a visual notification. So my LED is flashing in my face when I lose GPS, and then I exit the tunnel and it flashes in my face again. It can be expensive to get, enough heads to get the extra TX sensors and stuff, or having a vertical install isn't possible unless you have the TX sensors. So there are some limitations. It's not perfect. I wish that, yeah, they also kind of hide, and it's understandable, some of the updates as far as what's being updated, but they do that intentionally because they don't want to inform the manufacturers or their competitors on like, hey, we just issued an update for such and such gun. And so it can be kind of tough to know exactly what the updates are sometimes. But that is understandable. So sometimes we don't know all of what the updates are. One of the most annoying things, I think, is integrating Bluetooth and the external speaker. Like, if you want a speaker, usually there's a headphone jack and you plug in a speaker into the headphone jack, right? They didn't do that with the ALP. So a hi-fi module, you have to spend an extra $100 to get a freaking speaker. So the extras are like that. And then, you want to add Bluetooth for integration with your phone and easier to change settings and update the firmware and all that kind of stuff. You want your lockouts? Oh yeah, your speaker doesn't work anymore. You have to pair it with, you have to play through your car stereo or something. With me, if I do that, I've got a delay of the audio actually going through my car stereo just due to the way that my stereo works. And so there's conflicts with running the Bluetooth and the hi-fi module, because when the system was initially developed, they didn't think to like have them pair well together. So you get all these weird things of like the Bluetooth plugs into the control pad port, which then starts to limit which buttons work. So like only one of the buttons works for the dogs are back there playing for jamming your laser jammers. And at least they've now added the ability to jam or to disable your jammers with one of the buttons. So at least they've done that, but there's hardware limitations because of just some of the initial design choices. I remember earlier on, we were like, why don't you put Bluetooth in the detector, or sorry, into the CPU itself? Thanks for Spirit Angel and Zeekbrad, appreciate it. Why don't you put it into the laser jammer CPU itself? And they said, well, a lot of people aren't going to want Bluetooth. And so there's no point of charging people for Bluetooth if they're not going to want to use it. That way we can keep our costs down. And so they've made it an external optional extra for another $100 or so. So personally, I wish it was built in. I wish it was integrated better from the outset. And now we're dealing with some hardware limitations of having to work around kind of how some of the add-ons work. So it's not perfectly seamless. And if they were to design it today, I'm sure they would make some changes, like put a headphone jack on the side so you can plug in a speaker, So you run into some issues like that. So yeah, it's not perfect, but I mean, all around, looking at the big picture, yeah, it's the best one around. So yeah. Zeekbrad, which ALP setup would you recommend for a 2018 setup? So what I would recommend, go to my website. And here, let me make a quick note as far as timing. So this would be like 1:29:05 or so. Go to my website. I have my ALP setup guide, and it goes over which heads to get, how many to get. Should you get front and rear installation? Where on your grill should they be installed? Thanks, Jade Pavilion 2. all the kind of stuff that you need to know about the ALP, because this comes up a lot. I did this like huge, it's like 9 huge pages of ALP install stuff. I wrote it originally in 2016. It was 2 years ago now, but I continue to update it as new things come out, like TX sensors get added, or as any sort of changes come out, new states we find out have Dragon Eye, I'll update that information. So like a lot of that stuff that, yes, it's older, but it continues to be updated. So easy to donate with my fingerprint. So yeah, I continue to update it. So take a look. The easiest way to find that is, all right, guys, no barking, please, no barking. Sorry for my babies. They're playing and having fun. So if you take a look at my website, if you scroll down to the ALP section, you know how there's like, I've got a couple links like review, how to configure, and purchase. There's 3 links like that. Click the middle one for how to configure, and that'll take you to my ALP's install guide. And that'll be the easiest way to find it. And then you can skip and just read over that. It'll show you everything you need to know as far as ALPs, what accessories to get. Should you get the Bluetooth, or should you get the Hi-Fi, or should you get both? Where do you install the heads, and how many heads, and all the kind of stuff that you would need to know. That has been updated for 2018. So that would be the way to go. Let's see. Zeke, Brad, you were asking about that? Go to my website and it'll cover all that. If you have any additional questions, you can just leave a comment down there and I'll add it. If you want any sort of like personalized consultation, you can book my, I know the dogs are stealing the show. There we go. They're back there playing. Where are they? So they're just biting and playing and stuff. So if you guys need any sort of like personalized consultation stuff, you can always book a private session with me, and we can always go over like placement on your car and all this kind of stuff. If you don't want to spend a ton of time researching and all that kind of stuff, you can book a private session with me. Link on the top of my website, and we'll go over all that stuff one-on-one. But all that stuff is right there on my website. I make it available for you, and yeah, there you go. Oh, thanks, Siegfried. So yeah, my dogs. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it too. I don't want it to be like distracting or annoying to you guys, but I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it too. So, oh, okay, Paul. So a follow-up on the Wi-Fi stuff. I'll make a quick note, 131.48. So I took my 2018 Hellcat into Escort, and they could not figure out the Wi-Fi connectivity issue. They put it on me to work with the Dodge versus their tech support, trying to figure it out with Dodge. So it sounds like you have like Wi-Fi built into your car. Can other devices like your phone connect to that hotspot and then reach out to the internet? Like, is the Wi-Fi hotspot in your car actually supplying an internet connection? I think it probably does. It goes over like LTE, and you pay $10 a month or whatever it is. I'm guessing that's what you're talking about. And the issue is that your phone can connect, but not your Max360c. I'm guessing that's what it is. But yeah. Hard to. Okay, so let's talk about placement stuff. John Ross. So ALP placement stuff on vehicles. Again, take a look at my the ALP setup guide to go over that, and you can always post on the forums if you need placement suggestion stuff, or you can do private session with me and we'll go over all that, whatever. But yeah, so on the G90, you go to the ALP. I think that's the new Hyundai, right? Looks really cool. Yeah, hard to figure out where to put sensors on that car. Some cars are harder to figure out where to place sensors on. And honestly, like I'm going to be looking at a new car, probably an SUV or something, to get more room and 4-wheel drive and room for once my family starts growing and stuff. But yeah, laser jammer placement on a grill is something I look for. And if I can't place jammers there, and if I can't install radar detectors, I'm just like, next. I look at a new car, but that's important for what I do, you know? So some cars, yes, they are harder than others to install. Sometimes you may have to cut the grill to do that. But yeah, so sometimes you'll have to cut the grill, but some cars are harder than others. If it has vertical grill slots, you can always do a TX head in the middle and then turn your heads, the ALPs from horizontal to vertical. So that's an option. So there's things you can do, but just take a look at my ALP setup guide and it'll go over all that stuff for you. The F-150, great grill. Yeah. So yeah, Omar, yeah, thanks for stopping by and hanging out. I get where to place it, but near the headlights is impossible. Grill has tiny slots. Yeah, so I don't know if the vertical grill would work, or if you may wind up having to third Genesis. Oh, nice. Yeah, I used to have a Sonata and I loved it. The Genesis, oh, they're nice. But yeah, you may wind up having to cut your grill if there's not a better option. Maybe you can install lower and like a lower air intake. I'll have to take a look at that grill and see. But yeah, some grills, you're right, they are tougher than others. So We'll watch others. Paul, thanks. We'll see if others have issues. Thanks, Paul. Harold, any news about Stinger? Are you still in contact with them about updates? So Stinger stuff. So I was planning on doing a follow-up and having them actually fly out here and do some testing and stuff. It kind of fell off. I've sent them a couple messages asking about questions and stuff. I don't really have any news as far as updates with Stinger. I have one in my car. I've stopped running it. As I mentioned earlier, the display sits in my glove box now. I don't use it anymore. It's kind of like the NetRadar DSP where it's really only there for testing, or I guess if I get bored and I just want to run a different detector, which happens quite a bit all the time. But yeah, no news as far as Stinger. Hopefully something. Paul, do I do these every Sunday? Maybe every other Sunday. I don't like to plan it. I like to just kind of do this. If I got time and, I'll just hop on the computer and do a live stream, but just kind of whenever I'm available. So, yeah, let's see. In 2012, 15, and 18, you got all the V8s. Nice. Cool. I guess for the Genesis. I don't use lockouts. Okay, so Quiet Ride Alone, R3 and Quiet Ride. Yeah, so Bill G, Quiet Ride Alone is worth it for the extra $100 for an R3. I agree. I don't use lockouts, but I love the Quiet Ride. That is a super helpful feature. Yeah, so to have the low speed muting, I agree. It's amazing. A lot of times you don't even have to worry about the lockouts because the detector is quiet around town. And I like the R3, the fact that it actually shows you a signal. I've been running the Redensos lately, like the RCM. Their low speed muting, when you have it enabled, it not only mutes a signal, but it visually like nukes it from the screen. So you don't actually have any idea that there's a signal around, which I don't really like. I like to be able to see that there's a signal present, but the fact that the detector will show you that, and it'll also say, hey, it's muting it right now. I like knowing, again, for a situational awareness perspective, you can know that there's a signal present, but the detector is choosing to mute it. The Redensos will just hide it altogether, like the RCM. Not sure about the XP. I haven't run it in a while. So I like the fact that it will actually show you this signal, and not every detector does that. So yeah, it's nice. And then you don't even have to worry about the lockouts a lot of times. So definitely a useful feature. D Valentina, how did you come up with the name Vortex Radar? I just thought it was a cool word. I liked it. Being in the vortex was kind of a cool thing. Used to be into like law of attraction stuff and all that. And that was a thing. I was like, oh, it just kind of reminds me of that. So now it's just kind of a name that's stuck. It doesn't really have any sort of meaning. I wanted something different than like, for privacy reasons. If you want a different name than I would usually use elsewhere. When I first started doing my videos, remember how I didn't even show my face? I would just have my hands only, and Pointer Cone would always joke on the forums, oh, Vortex, our favorite hand model, So like for privacy reasons, I wouldn't show my face. And now I'm like, nah, whatever, it's cool now. But yeah, so I just wanted a different name and just keep things a little bit separate from stuff I've done in the past. So I just picked a different name, and Vortex was cool. So anyway, yeah. Hey, what's up, Get Social Butterfly? Good to see you. Yeah, so let's see. I like the gray out visual, low speed muting, awesome. Oh, here's an interesting one. I haven't heard this before. Okay, so Kuya Boogs, a budget radar detector with arrows. Ooh, okay, budget radar detector with arrows. I don't think there really are any. I mean, the cheapest you're looking at is like a V1 for $400. But otherwise, it's what, Max360, which I think the lowest I've seen that is like $419 recently on Amazon. I think it was like $469 the other day. Max360c dropped from $700 to $650. Not a budget option. There's not a lot of options for that. Maybe even if you go remote, that's expensive too. So not really. You could try doing 2 detectors and do ghetto arrows, so one in the front windshield and one in the back window. You could do that, but then you start working into like Beltronics G360. Thanks, Droid. That's an option, but there's not really. You could do the ghetto arrows, one on the front and rear window. Then you run into like interference issues. I've done that when like it's a little harder to tell if the sounds are the same as it come the front or rear. You could do that. I tried it for a while. I didn't really like it. Some people will do it. Maybe that's the only budget way if you get like $200 detectors or something. But otherwise, if you want a budget detector with arrows, the cheapest one is like the V1 or maybe the GT360 or something. So, yeah. This is an interesting question. Okay, Paul, do you have a link to get percentage from ALP? Yeah, if you use any of the links in the video description, I do make a percentage. So that's a way that you guys can support me. So if you click on a link on my website, make a quick note for this one as well. on my website, and you buy the ALP. When you do that, it's just an affiliate link that's built in, and I do make a percentage of the sale, and that helps support me. I could do the same thing with Escort and all these other manufacturers too. But yeah, ALP, best one. Go get it, and that can support me in the process. So thank you. Let's see. What was another one I wanted to? Oh, this was funny. Okay, TripWave. So ultimate radar detector stuff. It is funny that you bring this up because I've been thinking about this. So actually, since I've got you on here, this is a question I've got for you guys, and I've even been thinking about doing a video just on this. So I'm glad you asked this, TripWave. Thank you. When are you partnering up with a company, Uniden, to make the ultimate radar detector? So I've actually thought about this. I did a video, I don't know, a month or two ago, whatever, talking about like the ultimate radar detector, right? Who's going to make the ultimate detector with long range performance and auto lockouts and Bluetooth and arrows and RDD immunity and like all the stuff we want so that we have the ultimate detector. Then we don't have to say, well, if you want better situational awareness, get this. If you want better BSM filtering, get that. If you want longer range, get this. If you want arrows, get like, if we could just have one detector that's the best, right? Now, let's say I was to hypothetically join up with some manufacturer and help them develop this product. If I get involved earlier in the process, anybody can go in and do this. And I say, any manufacturer, please go make it. It would be awesome. I can't wait to see that, Quit it. Quit it, silly doggy. No humping. No humping. You're going to make my videos get demonetized if you show that. No. So if I was to create a partner up with the company to have like the ultimate radar detector, this is my question, would that compromise my own objective, unbiased position if I partner with a radar detector to help them manufacture it, and then it becomes something where I now have some sort of say in the detector of creating it? Like, I've worked with a lot of manufacturers to help them beta test and develop products, but if I go too far in the development and actually help them like in an earlier stage, would that compromise my own stance of being like an objective, unbiased tester? So I guess that's my question for you guys is if I'm working with a radar detector manufacturer and if they're actually paying me, let's say, to help them develop a product, and they would even, I'm sure at their point, want to go in the marketing and say, hey, this is a product that has been partially developed by Vortex for marketing. They probably want to say that I was involved with it. It would be good for them. Would that compromise my own stance on being this objective, unbiased tester? And I don't think so, but I always have that fear, and that's always something I'm really like cautious and vigilant about, So I'm curious to think about you guys. If I help and I get paid by a company to help them develop a product and it winds up being awesome, and I mean, I'll still say like, I know this product, I will tell you, here's what's good about it. Maybe here's some of the limitations and why you want to get a different product and not this one that I helped develop. And I could still say that, but like, would that get to the point where it would start to compromise my own stance of being this third-party objective tester who looks at all the different radar detectors and tells you how they are? So I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think about that. Let's see. Exactly. J Pavilion, it all depends on, you wouldn't be able to do other reviews possibly. Vortex should offer consulting and make money, has a big value to the companies that seem to not be listening. Let's see. I'm glad to see the manufacturers solicit the community to help in development. Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here wondering if I can help develop an amazing detector that benefits so many people and creates what I want and it's what you guys want. Would I be doing you guys a disservice by not stepping in and helping be a part of this, because I want to be this objective, unbiased tester? Am I missing out on an opportunity? Am I doing you guys a disservice? These are kind of the thoughts that I've been wondering. So let's see. Labman, as long as you did the same testing and stayed honest, I don't think it would be a problem. I see it as a win for everyone. The only Sarge, I'm glad to see manufacturers solicit the community to help in development. Okay, that was you. Yeah. Depending on Team AJ was saying, depending on how manufacturers use in the way they use your name, Vortex. Yeah, and that would be something I want to be clear about. I'm like, don't slap my name on it just because I was helping with the process somehow and, all that kind of stuff, Casey is saying, go for it. Cool. John Ross, pick 20 of us to be part of the team. Yes, you're missing on an opportunity. Okay, cool. Thank you for your feedback so far. I've been thinking about this quite a bit. And, if I was to do this as another thing I could help create, dog's just knocked over one of my lights a little bit. Just caught it. Yeah, it is something that I've been thinking about. Okay, hold on. I'll be right back. Albus, put your time up. Dogs. Why are you? I think this other dog that we are dog sitting is officially my dog's new girlfriend. Yeah. Anyways, coming back to it, you establish yourself as an expert in the field. No, go for it. You should consult your IP is important to the makers. Thank you. So yeah, cool. That's cool to hear that you guys are so open to it as well. Of course, I'm going to be cautious, blah, blah, blah. Here's my thoughts and everything. That dog was there last week. Yeah. So this other one, the bigger one, the black and white one, we have for like 2 weeks or something. And this white one is our dog. So yeah. At the end of the day, do what's best for you. It makes you happy. That's most important. I agree. Yeah. That's why I do this. I love this, yeah, I love this. I'm super passionate about it. In case you guys haven't noticed, I love talking to you about this. It's a Sunday morning and I'm sitting here on YouTube talking to you guys about radar detectors. I could be watching Netflix or whatever, So yeah. Oh, you're right, Sarge. Manufacturers do not have real world experience. That is bizarre. A lot of times they don't. There are some manufacturers and people who develop, maybe they're familiar with RF stuff, but they're not actually radar detector enthusiasts. So they don't know the details on how stuff should be designed and implemented. It's kind of surprising sometimes when you get to know the people who are actually developing. A lot of times they don't even run radar detectors or they're not enthusiasts. It's bizarre sometimes. That's actually been kind of a surprise. So that does happen. Yeah, biohazardous. Okay, cool. My only thought concern, don't chase any shiny payout deals. We respect the honesty. Yeah, that I agree. If they pay me, of course, there's kind of a certain point where I'm like, if I go in and help you, yeah, I've got expertise. I've got things to share. I should be prepared for my services. This, I like to help, but this isn't like a charity service, And my wife actually gets kind of upset when I do too much stuff for free. I tend to err on the side of doing it for free. And she's always like, no, you should be getting paid and all this kind of stuff, And I'm always like, well, trying to keep money, blah, blah, blah. So that's always been a discussion. But anyways, yeah. Take back what I said. Go for it. Try not to be biased. Only one company, vehicle versions is with Escort. It's fine. Vehicle versions, they like Escort. They're not super into radar detectors. I mean, they have one that they like and they share their experience. Cool. And they may not know a ton about radar detectors and their testing methodology is a little flawed. Fine. But I mean, they have a following. I wish they would spend a little bit more time learning about radar detectors, but a lot of people don't know that much about radar detectors. And again, that's one of the reasons I got into making these videos is there are a lot of people online and videos that seem really legitimate, but there's either misinformation or where do you go if you're looking for good information and it's not there? You just sometimes do it yourself. Just find out if, do it yourself. So yeah. Let's see. I'd be recommending that you do it as long as you do what's great for you and stay out of the politics. No kidding. Kevlar outer shell. That would be funny. So if I help design a radar detector and it's got problems, and then I'd have other people saying, like, kind of criticizing my choices. I'm sitting here saying other people's products, they have these issues. Then I'd have to kind of like get a taste of my own medicine. And I would have a detector that I helped build. And then maybe you guys wouldn't like it and you'd be complaining about certain issues. So I would be on the receiving end of that. That would be new for me, But at the same time, that would be good information where I could help develop a better product. I think the feedback is really important, Don't take it personally. Some people will be mean about it. Most people are cool. Great. And yeah. So anyway, I think that's about it. I'm getting a little hungry. So I think I want to go and grab a bite to eat. We've been going for almost 2 hours. This has been great. Cool. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for coming, spending your Sunday morning / afternoon, just kind of hanging out here with me on YouTube. Thanks for spending time here chit chatting about radar detectors and countermeasures and dash cams and listening to my dogs play. So awesome. Thank you much for all your support. You guys doing the super chat. That's been pretty cool. I really appreciate that as well. And yeah, well, you guys have an awesome weekend. I know we've got Memorial Day, so you guys have great weather. You are enjoying it. Thank you to all your veterans out there. Thank you so much for your service. And yeah. Okay. Have a great weekend and I'll see you guys later. Bye guys.